about some OU stuff tonight, mainly recruiting. You know, we're here for a good time, not a long time. We'll be talking about Lamar Morgan as well and his impact on the recruiting trail. So, without further ado, we'll see you guys after the intro. See, anyways, we'll talk to Jason about that. Regardless, folks, we are here with another recruiting podcast, recruiting intel. Chris Griffin, Horns Down Podcast. Again, Chris Mason, Sooners 360. Please like and subscribe to both channels. I think I'm 4 away from 900, so definitely help a brother out if you can. Regardless, though, share this out, do all those different things, and help us out. Chris Mason is coming to you live from the 305 or somewhere in Florida, right? So, Chris Mason, how you living, man? You good?
It is nice and sunny and sorry, I was about to say California. I don't know why in Florida. Warmer than the cold South that we've been having with the winter blast that we got in Atlanta, like Oklahoma did. So it's nice to be in Florida. It's sunny, 75 and sunny, so I can't complain.
Oh, that sounds lovely. That sounds lovely. But hey, the weather here is actually pretty damn good today.
Yep,
feels like
yep.
it feels like a good spring day. I'm excited because I'm like, if this is the weather we get for the spring game, I can't wait. Definitely show up and show out, people. I'll be there. Jason will probably be there. I know Jay from Unfair Sports and all them will be there. We sat together last year and watched the Crimson Combine. Regardless, though, definitely come out. But Chris Mason, let's go ahead and jump into it because I don't want to take too much more of your vacation time. But Lamar Morgan, I know you were excited to talk about this. Obviously, that's the lead topic. Obviously, that is he's on the cover art, right? And we got him in an OU shirt. You're welcome. Regardless, though, Chris Mason, what's going on with Lamar Morgan?
Well, he's kind of off to. I think he's off to a hot start, and I think we're seeing some evidence of why he was the candidate that OU ended up going with, despite a bunch of other names out there. So, two things that have sort of happened is we've got a number of recruit interviews across the various sites that indicate that OU targets were Michigan targets, and that Lamar Morgan is not having to rebuild everything from scratch in terms of relationship building with a lot of the OU targets. So Juju Johnson, for example, uh, OU's cornerback target from Long Beach Poly, he was he was very much connected to Lamar Morgan, and it seems like OU is going to have a seamless transition there in terms of getting Juju Johnson back on campus. Sooner Scoop says that Juju should be back for the March 7th Future Freak event. So that's definitely something that he'll have a chance to meet Lamar in his new role as the OU cornerback coach. That's a big addition there because obviously Juju Johnson's a top 100, top 50 kind of player. And then you have a safety from Chatsworth, California named Miles Baker that OU was recruiting, not really making a lot of headway with previously, but he sort of had Michigan and Lamar Morgan as his number one, number two on his list, and now he's talking heavily about, well, if Oklahoma makes a big push with Lamar Morgan, that's going to make a big difference. And he's a four-star, top 200 type guy at safety. So if you could add him at safety into the group, OU's kind of behind on Samaj Stanford. He's looking at a couple others, the uh, in-state safety, and they're probably a little bit behind on Khalib, the lead Dillard, just because they offered him a little bit late. But if you can get Miles Baker on the campus, maybe March 7th for this Future Freaks event, that kind of lessens that blow. And he seems to be like really high on Lamar Morgan. So I'm also betting that's not going to hurt OU with Dante Wright, the other elite cornerback from Long Beach Poly, who just basically posted an update today on 3 where he's talking about taking some official visits, and he's now talking about an OU official visit. He's a Georgia verbal, but he's been talking up OU quite a bit. OU seems to be sort of floating in the background, could maybe pull an upset here. He's a 5-star, top 30 guy in the country, and Lamar Morgan probably was very connected to him when he was at Michigan. So he's mapping over with OU commits and targets at cornerback easily. It looks like it's going to be an easy transition for Lamar Morgan because there was a stretch where Michigan was offering the same guys, like Crew Jones was probably offered by Michigan. Uh, you know, um, uh, Elijah Harmon probably had a Michigan offer. So OU's verbal commitments on the defensive side of the ball, in terms of Michigan guys, seems to be mapping over. Which we all like Lamar Morgan's resume from his time coaching, and if he can then map over his excellent recruiting at Michigan to the OU targets, we could have a fairly, we could take as little a blow as possible in the Valai to Morgan transition. He's already reached out to Gabriel Osborne, Talon Mayo, the big cornerback from Louisville. So it's setting up nicely. I think this cornerback transition is gonna go very, very well for the Sooners, and you might even see them pick up some momentum with a couple of new guys. Chris, you're on mute.
I didn't realize I was on mute. Either way, one of the interesting things to me is just honestly just the development, the continuation of that, seeing where Valai left off and seeing what he can do now with a Guillory, a Bowen. Is there another guy in there? Obviously, Jacoby Johnson. Those are the top three, regardless of who's the DB coach. But I think you're wanting to see those three develop and turn into something even more special than what we believe they are already. But I think that you're trying to see who's that fourth man, who's that other guy. Is it Tristan Haynes? That's the excitement that comes with a new coach, is that a lot of people get, a lot of new people get a lot of chances, right? And I'm sure that he's had conversations with Valai about, hey, this is what the room looks like, yada yada yada. So I think that the development on the field is going to speak volumes. And I think that will do the same in recruiting as well, because it's just going to show the continuation of what's already been going on here with that DB room.
Yeah, so I think it's something where you make this transition and you're concerned because OU is having a very successful DB recruiting cycle, and the fact if you could continue this momentum, if Morgan can continue to build the relationships that Jay Valai established, and obviously Jay Valai did a very good job. There's several interviews where it's like Jay Valai called me, he told me this is all about it's about his professional development, not anything wrong with OU, that OU is still a place you should consider, that Brent's going to do a good job, the defense is going to be great. So I think that's one of the things that helps, is that it's not a disingenuous comment from Jay Valai in terms of that. He's gone to the pros. So from that standpoint, it's not like he's at Penn State or FSU or somewhere else where the comment, well, I think you should still go to OU, but hey, maybe if you want to go to FSU, you should give me a call too. So you don't have to. There's no motive. There's no doubting the motivations. At least I think from Jay Valai, in terms of him saying, "Hey, you guys should consider OU. You need to give Lamar Morgan a chance. This is where OU's heading." So we got Trojan Fight in here, and there's some question about Quinton Hale, and I'll quickly jump on that topic because Chris and I were talking about it off screen. He's announcing Friday. Everybody expects him to choose USC. I think he's going to choose USC, but I don't think that commitment is going to lock everything down. I think Quinton Hale probably will continue to take some unofficial and official visits. He's kind of locking his spot, and he hasn't been to Norman yet. So if I was USC fans, it's a huge pickup. Love Quinton Hale. Would be a great pickup for USC. USC's done well recruiting California the last 2 classes. So it would make sense if he was to stick with USC. But if I was USC, I would prefer that he not visit Norman especially not for like our spring game or something like that. You don't want him around a bunch of Cali guys that OU does have commitments from. And there's a certain just as a USC obviously has different things to sell than OU does, and one of the things OU could sell is a passionate fan base where OU is the number one. OU football is the number one story in town, save for maybe the Thunder and OU softball. But yeah, I think that would be. I don't know, Trojan. I don't that doesn't look like what's happened with USC's verbals yet. Obviously, different policies can change, and you can try and enforce that. Brent's having a tough time enforcing something he's had on the books for 4 years in terms of no official visits from other places. Kids are going to on unofficial visits, and of course, unofficial visits are all kind of been funded by schools these days, and everyone sort of realizes that no one's obeying that NCAA rule any longer.
Chris
Go
Mason.
ahead.
I was just gonna say. I mean, hell, the GM was saying that to the players. Should he say that to his coach? I digress. Keep going, Chris Mason. Keep going.
Well,
I
yeah,
had to
I
do it.
think,
I had to
yeah, but
do
I
it.
think it's. I mean, again, I'm not going to downplay it. USC has been the leader for Quinton Hale. OU's been pushing hard, and I think OU will push. Try and get him in town for the Future Freaks event, and try and get him in town maybe for the spring game, and just keep working this, and try and make him part of the class. But it's a good pickup for USC if he announces, and OU has been, they've been kind of rare, kind of charging from behind, in this recruiting battle. And USC's always kind of been the front runner along with Alabama. Well, OU took Alabama's spot in the front four, and uh, yeah, thievery. I missed the rubber sound proofing squares as well. This is the mobile command recruiting command center. So yeah, I think it's a good pickup for USC if that's what ends up happening. But the other schools he's looking at, LSU's not going away anywhere. I mean, they're not going to stop recruiting anybody at any point in time for any reason. And if I was, if I was USC, I would prefer just a head-to-head matchup with OU, and that LSU was on the sideline looking elsewhere, knowing whatever shenanigans they're going to get up to. So, but yeah, that's the Quinton Hale update. It was OU was kind of trying to stall the USC verbal, I think, to try and get him on campus. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case, but we'll see what happens with his recruiting as the rest of the cycle continues. Because
It's
he's the best big receiver on OU's board.
I make the joke, and I mean, Trojan, look, not trying to beef with you. I mean, we're in the off season right now. We usually don't beef until we have to, but the thing is, people, you still have to, with the way college football is and the way it works, and some of the things you heard down the stretch, especially with the coaching carousel. I'm just not necessarily. I'm not going to sit here with Lincoln Riley as the head coach and say, yeah, that commitment is going to stick all the way through, because I just don't know. I have to get past what, January. You know what I'm saying? I have to get past January pretty much to make sure. But hell, I don't even know about that. You saw what happened in Michigan and a couple other places this year. So I mean, it's just so crazy year to year what could potentially happen. So I guess we shall see. Regardless if he does, and he does, but hell of a talent, hell of a wide receiver that you would want to get another big pool, potential big pool for Nagy and company or Emmett Jones and company. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting to see. So it's so early that I mean, and let's just be transparent here. I'm worried about a half dozen of the guys OU has verbal, OU holding on to them. So this is
yeah.
not just I'm not just taking shots at USC because that's what we do because we despise Lincoln Riley. I'm just saying that it's going to be tough for anybody to really hold on to their commits right now, depending upon the myriad of things that could happen. Um, and what can happen in various places. It's like, they're talking a little bit about the Royal kid that verbaled to Texas, and now, you know, LSU's just, I mean, he's a Louisiana kid. LSU's not going anywhere. Texas can do everything exactly right in this recruiting, and he's still at the 11th hour, could ditch them and choose LSU. This is just, it's the danger of recruiting the boot. I mean, until the guy's on campus and is having, is on campus, or maybe even not then. I mean, Lane Kiffin will literally do anything, and then you factor in LSU's hold over kids in state. It'll be interesting to see, if Texas can hold on to that verbal commitment.
All right. Chris Mason, you want to? Do you have anything else to add back on the Lamar Morgan topic, or do you want to go ahead and move to the big, the recruiting weekend that's upcoming?
Just one last thing. He had a when you look back at his recruiting classes at Michigan, he was doing a great job with elite cornerbacks.
Yeah.
So I think there's a distinct possibility that he might even exceed what Jalay Vine. I just created a whole new name. Jay Valai. Just combined his name into just one word. I think there's a distinct possibility that he might be able to exceed what Jay Valai was able to close on. That's a distinct possibility from Lamar Morgan.
There's definitely a chance. I mean, Will Johnson, right? There are certain guys that he can call upon, if he needs to. I mean, the development, just the continuity, all the rest of those different things, and that's why I'm saying it goes hand in hand with recruiting. What can he do? Can he turn Guillory into the superstar that I think you and I both believe that Guillory can be if he's not already? Can he
And
take? Go ahead. Go ahead.
and Tristan. Everyone keeps forgetting Tristan Haynes.
Tristan Haynes, yeah.
I mean, who was only behind Guillory because he played like every position for Midwest City, Carl Albert out of high school. But Haynes is 6'2", 185 pounds, and
Mhm.
he's probably sub 4'4" based upon his track times. He is legitimately probably maybe the best athlete we signed last year. So you've got a guy with nothing but ceiling who's about to get who's going to get a new coach and a new development process.
Yeah.
So he could blow up as a redshirt freshman. I mean, he's sort of Jacoby Johnson, but we got to redshirt him instead of Jacoby having to play as a freshman, and we're not going to make the mistake of trying to put him at wide receiver for a year because we're dead at wide receiver. So some of them is sort of not mistakes, but just some of the hurdles that Jacoby Johnson went through. You're going to have a guy as athletic or maybe more athletic than Jacoby Johnson who's going to come into a much better defensive development environment than Jacoby did when he came in, and I think it was 2022, if I have that right.
Mhm.
So you're just talking about a guy as athletically talented as Gentry Williams or Jacoby Johnson, but he comes into a much better foundational environment for development from the cornerback perspective.
No, I'm really excited about it. I think that you combine that with BV and what he wants to do, and if he gets in here and he picks up that scheme really quickly, I mean, it's going to be really good, especially just with the way he's coaching and all the rest of that stuff. Uh, Ben G, shout out to my guy Ben G. He says, hold on. Minji had a comment up here. He said he shows up and is already an upgrade over Valai, fellas. I know you don't want to admit it's not that we don't want to admit it. It's not the truth. I don't know yet. I mean, we got to see. I think recruiting wise, it's on par. I think he's going to recruit a hell of a bunch of more guys, maybe than what Valai was doing. Something maybe differently. I really don't know. Valai had a certain type that he was trying to get, but he got kids in here and he developed, and I think that's all that we're looking for. Now we're looking to see if he can turn these kids into superstars or whatnot. But at the same time, I don't understand the. I know maybe Valai didn't do y'all well or whatever the case may be, but he did wonders for us. So that's how we're going to remember him, right?
I mean, we had a problem at cornerback recruiting and
Yeah.
development for years. It's been a blind spot for OU defensive staffs going all the way back since Mike Stoops left in 2003. I mean, we've had a hard time finding a consistent guy to be our cornerback coach. We even tried Bobby Jack Wright there for a little while. Um, So it's for OU. Valai was a high point, and that may just mean that Lamar Morgan's going to take us even higher. And if that's the case, that sounds good to me.
So be it. So be it. All right, Chris Mason. Let's move on to the I guess the Champ U Big Barbecue, however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. But March 7th recruiting event. I mean, that weekend seems to
Well,
be.
so to
Go,
correct you just for a second. So
go
March
ahead.
7th is Future Freaks,
Okay, go ahead. Go
and
ahead.
that's going to be 27 and 28 kids. And OU's going to have a bunch of kids on campus. Sooner Scoop just posted some names, and it's about 10 names they have, and there's probably going to be another 20 names on campus between 27 and 28.
Mm,
But OU has traditionally had one or two big weekends on in June that they've used for official visits, and they've usually called that the Champ U Barbecue U weekend. Kind of the two nicknames OU's kind of used for that event. And it looks like this year that event's going to be June 12th through June 14th. That looks like it's going to be the big weekend where they're going to try and get 20 commits, probably get all the commits they can on campus, and try and close on the last couple of kids. So OU's already mapping out. So we have March 7th Future Freaks. They're already adding names to that. Verbal commitments are confirming, and then kids are after is confirming. Then OU now has a spring game they can use as a recruiting platform as opposed to the Crimson Combine nonsense of last year. We're going to have a real spring game, and I would say, Chris, you can correct me. I'm anticipating a pretty big crowd for a return of the spring game, coming off the 10-2 season, the top 10 kind of hype around OU preseason wise. I think OU is going to have a big crowd, and there's going to be some excitement about having a spring game again. So I think we'll see a lot of recruits at that. OU will get as many guys as they can back on campus for that event. And then they're setting up June 12th through 14th as one of their two big June recruiting weekends. And everyone can ask why, you don't use July. You can't use July. And OU's always wanted to wait until after May to try and have their big recruiting weekends. So a lot of schools will use the end of April. Some of them will use May. OU tends to sort of take Memorial Day off and then not do those kind of weekends that are bookend around that, and then wait until June to sort of kick off their official visits. So OU's clearly staging and planning their recruiting calendar coming up. So I believe April 1st is when 2027 players can schedule and start scheduling their official visits, as long as it's not during a dead period. And all of July is traditionally, and I think still on the calendar, going to be a dead period. And most of August is also dead because they don't want the kids. You just want to leave the high schools alone during that time period, and also everybody's usually in August camp, so it's not a good time to do recruiting visits.
No, keep going, Chris Mason. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but so you can see that they've got stuff teed up and planned, and that you're probably going to focus on the game weekends that are in the fall. OU's home schedule, which is UTEP, New Mexico, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Kentucky. Is that right? I think that's right. They're going to focus those weekends as unofficial weekends for 2028 kids. So you'll see them try and get everybody basically verbaled. With Nagy last year, or he was doing more official visits during the fall because he was trying to play catch up. But with the full year and the full cycle developed, where Nagy knows all of these players and has them teed up, I think you're going to see the bulk of the OU class verbally committed by August 1st, September 1st, and then they're going to use the unofficial visits for the 28. They'll start getting a jump on 28 and bringing in the 28 kids during the the football weekends that OU has coming up. So in this fall, so you'll see OU kind of basically closing out 2027 as maybe by August 1st, and then the rest of the year will be focused on 2028, and they'll just get a huge jump on 2028, bringing in out of town guys to experience OU home games and the atmosphere. And OU's home atmosphere is pretty great. When you've got good games and you got a good football team, OU's home atmosphere is pretty awesome.
Yeah, for every game. I mean, I think that especially after that bye week, if you're coming out of there undefeated, or what is it, 3-1 at the very least, I
Well,
think
it'd be
that.
four. I think it would be 4-1. You'd have the Georgia game, and then you've got the three non-conference games, and
Oh
then
no, I thought you had. Oh yeah, you got those three. You got
three
UTEP.
non-conference games:
Yeah, UTEP, Michigan,
Michigan, New Mexico,
New Mexico,
Georgia,
then Georgia
bye
bye
week,
week.
Texas.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, if you're going out, I was saying undefeated or 3-1 at the very least.
After Texas,
No, before Texas.
before Texas. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
before the
Yeah.
bye week. So yeah, if you come out of there
Yeah.
undefeated or 3-1 before the bye week, after the bye week, then I mean, I think that OU is definitely going to be rocking. I mean, freaking rocking more than probably usual, simply because it just means that everything that we've thought that this team could be or could graduate to or mature to has actually come to fruition, right? So no, definitely, I think that that's going to be a big part of it. I think it's been a big part of it. I think that the vibes are great around OU. And I don't think that we're hunting people necessarily next year. I think we're going to be part of the hunted, if that makes sense, Chris Mason. I really do.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning, I text you and I said, it's there. They just got to take the moment. I mean, they just have to. I mean, if Mateer and Arbuckle can find consistency each game, this is a dangerous team, especially with that defense and some of the younger guys that they're betting on. I mean, we talked about Tristan Haynes in that room. I know there's a couple of freshmen in there that we think highly of as well. But offensively, man, if they can figure it out, man, this is a championship level team, and I think this is a part of your championship window this year, especially.
Yeah. And again, that just OU has staffed up
Hmm.
with the scouting front office. They can handle before 15 to 20 unofficial visits of scholarship offer guys was difficult to manage, right?
Hmm.
Because the coaches were involved on game day. They don't have a lot of time to talk to kids or families or doing this. But you now have 8 to 10 guys, 8 to 10 staff members who
Hmm.
can handle everybody on game day, and the coaches can just focus on game day. And Jim Nagy will meet players and parents, agents, and then you've got Stacy Ford, Lake Dawson, um, the assistant GM whose first name I forget.
Hmm.
And then you've added this new recruiting coordinator who's sort of a manager, project manager for recruiting. So OU's in much better position to host 30 or 40 unofficial kids for a big game than they were 2, 3 years ago when that would be an unwieldy number and you really couldn't do much. Thank you, Topher. That's Taylor Red. Um, you now have 10 staff members, so you can disperse the resources and make sure everybody's getting the touch points they need to make sure that they to make sure the week it's a positive experience coming to an OU home game, and then you've got the excitement. You know, again, OU was rocking last year. The home game environment was pretty awesome from you know almost everybody who was at a home game, or the media members, folks like Josh Pate, JD Pickell, people who aren't OU homers will say, yeah, that was a that was a great atmosphere in Norman for that game. So it
And
helps.
the playoff game was historic, man. If the only thing that sucks is that we didn't win, if we would have won that game, that's something that you would have talked about for years to come, man. It was such an experience, man. They went all out, you
Yeah,
know. Obviously,
OU fans brought it. I mean,
yeah.
this is our fan base takes a little bit. a little bit of heat every once in a while, and they really showed up last year, and that was very key. So, Thievery, right now, OU has 13 verbal commitments. I'd have guessed we're going to lose maybe one or two of those, depending upon how things track. But by March 7th, I think we'll probably pick up three or four more. So OU's trending to go into their spring game with somewhere around 15, 16 verbal commitments. So again, if they can get some of the targets they want in for the spring game, that could be a couple verbal commits there. So we're talking before they have a big official weekend, OU could be 16, 18 verbal commits. So it doesn't seem a huge stretch to think with a couple of big official visit weekends over the summer that OU by the August, maybe early September timeframe is up to 24, 25 commitments.
Yeah. So y'all not really compared to.
Well, and it's really the Nagy effect. Last year, um, Jim Nagy, when he got hired and came on board, sort of in May, in sort of March and April and May, he basically retooled OU's offer list. There was a number of players that OU stopped recruiting that most recruiting guys like most of the recruiting sites, you know, people who make recruiting predictions like me, OU lost five or six guys that we thought were going to be part of the class because Nagy basically said, "Yeah, they're not a fit for what we need to do." So OU had to retool their list, start from scratch with a bunch of commitments. Guys like Derek Harris, guys like Matt Nelson, guys like Jacob Curry, Dane Bathurst. So they really had to change what they were doing. You know, guys, someone like Mason James, who ended up at Washington, who was considering Texas, was a heavy OU lean in January, and then by March, Nagy's like, "Yeah, I'm not a big fan." So OU moved in another direction. We'll see if that was the right move or not. I think it's a controversial move. We'll see what happens. I think he's a chance to be very successful at Washington. But OU this year, all the guys OU's recruiting and made offers to and are their targets are all sort of Nagy and coaching staff verified or approved. So OU's in a position where if a kid wants to verbally commit, he's already gone through a screening process of both our front office and our coaching staff. So OU's ready to take those commitments and push for them. So we'll see if it's going to be successful long term. But right now, it's hard to argue with the recruiting ranking results and just the film of the kids. Tavon Epps looks fantastic. Michael Davis, who's underranked, has a just great looking film. I keep comparing him to Sooner great Derek Strait. That's who his play reminds me of, from Austin, by the way. And then you've got the running back Keldrid Ben, who OU offered, who now Texas and Oregon want. And I think he's going to end up getting reevaluated. And we'll see if OU can hold on to that verbal with his running back coach transition.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris, do we want to quickly talk about that?
Yeah, I was gonna. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, Chris Mason. What's the word, man? What's the word?
Well, there's still no real word. My sources haven't leveraged to tell me anybody's a front runner or about to be offered the job. An interesting name that's kind of hit the boards and getting some traffic is, I believe his name is Jalen Everett from Wisconsin. Let me just double check that real quick. Um, but yeah, his name is Jaden Everett of Wisconsin. It's interesting, Chris. His resume is it's a little weak, sorry, in terms of like recruiting premier kids. Um, so we'll see.
What is Wisconsin? So I don't care who the coach is. You know they're gonna run the ball regardless. But
Well, yeah, he coached there last year,
yeah,
so I mean, let's remember that their punter was their leading passer in a football game.
that's very
So
true. That is very true.
all they had was running the ball. So I don't think it's yeah, we'll see if he's actually the guy. Again, he's been in Akron, Minnesota, Michigan. I think on an off the field role. I don't think he was their running back coach. So from that standpoint, um, we'll see. But that's the name that's floating around. It doesn't have the Deshaun Foster or Tashard Choice kind of hype. Um, so we'll see. I kind of wonder if maybe his agent is floating his name out there, like, hey, he's a candidate for the OU job. Um, so we'll see. But there's nothing. I think we'll have an announcement in the next couple of days. From that perspective, uh, thievery. I mean, that's you're right. That could be the reason why Tashard Choice. His name's just been mentioned. There's nothing that indicates he's interviewing or that he's about to take the job. But OU has connections with Tashard going way back from that perspective. So we'll see. Deshaun Foster would still be the top of my hot board and my front runner. It makes too much sense from on a lot of levels. So we'll see. I think he would probably take the OU job if offered. He's turned down a number of running back jobs. He's looking for the right fit, and with his UCLA payout, he can do that. So we'll see if that's the way OU wants to go, or like Lamar Morgan, if OU hires somebody completely off the hot boards and grabs somebody who is a really good running back coach, and we're like, oh, okay, well, we didn't mention him. So, Brent's using and leveraging the football expertise in the Switzer Center, the personnel expertise in the Switzer Center, to interview, get resumes, and find the right choice.
It,
So
it
Arbuckle obviously has a say in this. You want to make sure that your offensive coordinator is giving some feedback.
yeah,
All right, okay. Bevo's bodyguard finally has a joke we can actually show.
yeah. Forget about him. Anyways, get to my point though. Uh, No, I mean, I think that Tashard Choice, I think the Alfred guy. I mean, it's a bunch of guys out there that make sense, but I think that two things that I would say. One, it seems like the decision is probably going to be something that's far left that we're not thinking about. The Jaden Everett guy again. I think this regime here, and I know you'll back me up on this. They're pretty good at deflecting. They turn you a certain way and then come from left field and say, yeah, no, this is our guy all along. We were never talking to any of these other people. But a trend I think with the coaching hires though, it seems BV is surrounding himself with a bunch of guys that have either DC, OC, or head coaching experience. You get what I'm saying?
Oh
Outside of
yeah,
like
yeah.
Chavis or whatnot, but a lot of these guys have coached at the highest of highest with the most titles in the world, more than they have now, right? And at OU. So I mean, I think that's something that you have to think about as well as who he's surrounding himself with. So that's a trend that you would follow, and I think all eyes would point to Alford, but we shall see.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. Definitely on the defensive side of the ball, Brent seems to be accumulating people who have defensive coordinator experience.
Mhm.
So, okay, so Topher, give me just a little perspective on uh, Kenan Hall.
Baylor.
Is that a coach that you would like? Just give me another answer. Give me a little feedback on that. So yeah, I mean, OU could pull somebody young who they just think is 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 on the rise, kind of do a Chavis situation here. The Baylor running back coach. Yeah, Baylor's had some. Yeah, that's a possibility. If you there's some directions you could go in this from a recruiting and sort of standpoint in terms of what areas you could shore up or enhance. Texas would be one of them. California would be another. Georgia, there's a Georgia Tech and a Georgia guy on people's wish lists. If somebody in the Southeast that you could get at, gives you more of a pull in the Southeast SEC territory, that would be a way to go. It's interesting to see. I do think it's possible OU won't get the decommits we kind of thought when this first happened. So, Chris DeMarco is apparently on his way out the door, made sure to to work the current verbals, ask them to give OU a chance, give OU a chance to get their guy hired, meet with him. OU's where you want to be. It's a great program. They're they're potentially on a championship run if things go right. So I think it was interesting that Mackay Rhodes didn't already decommit. So maybe Mackay's going to give OU a chance to hire their new guy and build that relationship before deciding what he would like to do. So that's the one positive right now. I kind of thought we'd be talking about one or two running back decommits on this quick reaction from young kids, which would have made sense for Micah Rhodes and Keldred Ben to just decommit because they got a lot of stuff going on. So, but so far they haven't, and I think Demarco's a big reason. I think
Are,
Demarco's a big reason why.
are you expecting a splash or are you expecting a solid hire? What is your thoughts?
I don't know. To me, unless it just comes down to dollars, to me, Deshaun Foster makes way too much sense.
I kept saying Alford. I meant Foster. That's who I meant. Like, I just had to enter that
Yeah, I
because
mean, if Alford, and um, would be a great hire, right? Stan Drayton has certainly resume elements that would indicate that he could be a big hire too. You're not really hearing much of either of those names, other than Sooner fans, I think, kind of wish listing on them. So, but we do know that Deshaun Foster was talking to OU about an analyst position. That's been confirmed by George Stoya and Parker Thune. So that detail that's been rumored has we've got two sources saying that was ongoing. So I think that sets up a chance to go ahead and just make him an official part of the staff. Um, and he's got a good connection with Stacey Ford. He has connections in Texas. He has connections in California. It pushes some of the buttons that would seem to make sense from a recruiting standpoint. And from a coaching standpoint, he's had a lot of run game experience coaching running backs under Chip Kelly. And we know Chip likes to run the damn football. So I don't think, and run game coordinator stuff under Chip. So uh, he would bring something, I think, from a strategy wise to the table based upon having worked with Chip Kelly.
Chris Mason, OU fans just want to know: will the next coach have better rotations? That's all they want to know. That's all they want to
Well,
know.
okay. So
That's all they want to know.
is the next coach a protege of Cale Gundy? If he isn't, then you can expect a different rotation. If he's a Cale Gundy protege, then you can expect something similar to what DeMarco did, which he learned under Cale. I don't understand why everyone was so confused by DeMarco's rotations when he was just doing what Cale did. And if you guys are like, no, he didn't, I'm like, well, then please explain to me why Alan Patrick started the 2007 Texas Tech game and not DeMarco Murray.
All right.
Fumbled the ball, and got Sam Bradford concussed. So, you can't tell me, why did Kawan Jones start before Adrian Peterson in games in 2004?
I was rooting for Q1. My uncle kept telling us, man, look. Anyways, look, Chris Mason is out here in Florida, people. He's on the beach doing his thing. So let's let him get back to that. We're here for a good time, not a long time. Thank you all for being in here. Like and subscribe, do all those different things. Chris Mason, you got any parting shots before we get up out of here?
Yeah, I don't know whether this is just we're in the top 12 and we're just a placeholder and not really under consideration, but the massive defensive tackle, defensive end from California, 2027, who was a 2028 player, Marcus Facato, to try and not make his not try and make his name an SEC censor. He's 6'7", 290. Chris, there's a photo of him next to Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald looks like a fifth grader next to him. He listed OU in his top 10, top 12. He camped at OU. OU was sort of the place he got. He was like nobody, and then OU offered him, and the reports out of the OU camp were like, this kid's unbelievable. So we'll see if maybe OU can turn that around to maybe a visit for the spring game or the Future Freaks event, and maybe try and push for an official commitment. Or OU is simply just a placeholder in a top 10 list and not doesn't really have a shot. But he would be I, I don't know what Brent does with a 6'7", 290-pound defensive end slash maybe D tackle. I mean, I'm sure he'll figure out something to do with him, but he would be he is a freak, a absolute freak. Future, the freaks list that Bruce Feldman puts out. He's a future member of that. This kid's just he's 6'7", 290, and he moves like a guy. He shouldn't move that well. He's athletically doesn't fit his physical stature. So
All right.
that's the last note. It's a little quiet right now. Obviously, the OU coaching changes that disrupt some stuff, but more and more names are going to announce for the Future Freaks event, and we'll definitely, as we roll from February to March, that'll be a big talking point on future recruit intel Mondays.
All right. Well, next time we'll be here next Monday, 8 p.m. Central, same time every week. So people definitely tune in. Kchris Griffin, Horns Down Podcast, and it's BLC. If he's still in here, I'm sure he's gonna be upset about this. But Chris Mason, Sooners 360 podcast. Definitely go over there and like and subscribe to that as well. The Patreon is still only $2 to subscribe to. And then also, Chris Mason will be coming back. I'm sure he'll figure out something Wednesday night, Thursday,
Actually,
whenever.
I'm skipping Wednesday this week.
Okay.
I'll be back. Be back the following week with a vengeance, with a lot more information for you guys.
Praying for no emergencies. That way we don't have to try to scramble to do anything that
Yeah,
is emergent.
I don't need Chris texting me at 10:30 at night saying we got a pod. Sorry.
Unless they hire a running backs coach, regardless.
Well, if they do, they do. Well, I'll be back in this strange room with this strange lighting, and you guys can wonder why you're not seeing the sound suppression cubes behind me.
All right. All right, people. Hey, love you guys. Hope y'all have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. Till next time.